Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Ball Watching. And if you're listening right now, you know what time it is. It is time to get freaking hyped, man. It is it's cup final week for us. This is the build up to the biggest match of the season. I don't care that it's against a team that's been eliminated. Can't believe we're having to play a team that's been eliminated from the playoffs. It's just so unfortunate. But can't be us, right? Not at this point, at least. But you know what? We'll welcome them with open arms and hopefully just be ready to decimate these Kansans as they come to St. Louis, the rightful capital of soccer. Justin, we're starting off hot here. I mean, the banter is going to be great in this lead in. It always is. How are you feeling on rivalry week here between us and Sporting Kansas?
I'm feeling great. The weather in St. Louis is really cooled off. Hopefully the rain stays away. It looks like it's supposed to rain on Saturday, but you mentioned, I'll say this as well. My favorite name of this game is the barbecue. I think that's awesome. And if you saw those pictures of Leuven today, we are cooking up some good pork steaks right now. So it's one of those things that if anybody hasn't seen the interview, he mentions that he's like, I had to learn to cook, and he started grilling. And I love seeing him in the apron, just lathering up some pork steaks with barbecue sauce. But you mentioned it already, Jake, us being the home of soccer in the U.S. It just got kind of like even furthered again as the U.S. men's soccer team just announced that we will be hosting the Nations League quarterfinals on November 18th at City Park.
It's so cool. No, I was stoked to hear that. I knew they'd probably be on the docket here soon. Just given, I do believe the national team has, a couple HQs, I would say. I know they're building one in Atlanta, but they used to have one in Kansas City, and those are more training facilities. But they have a couple cities they know to go back to because you're guaranteed to get, or usually guaranteed to get a very pro-American crowd. And not feel like you're playing an away match on your own home turf. And those cities are like Kansas City, St. Louis, Columbus, Cincinnati. Like, think about a lot of your Midwestern-ish type cities. Those are usually places they find a safe haven in, places that are not on that list. Anywhere in Los Angeles, really anywhere in California, Miami, anywhere on the coast where you get a lot of immigrants who have settled in those areas that have deep roots in other countries' soccer backgrounds. Those are not places you want to play. So I'm excited, Justin. November 18th. It's a quarterfinal. It's a meaningful match. It's Pochettino's first match at the helm, and it's all taking place here. He even gave a little kudos to St. Louis. You love to see a top manager in the world mentioning our city in that sentence. I mean, it's just fantastic. And I do think it's a sign of the times to come as well.
Yeah, and I think even further, looking past the end of 2024 into 2025, we just got announced as a Gold Cup host as well in St. Louis. So that's between some major cities. When you look at some of these that are NFL stadiums, that's Jerry World in Dallas. Then you go to Glendale, Arizona, where the Cardinals play, Houston. Then you look at California, Minneapolis, Santa Clara. And then you're throwing St. Louis in there. Little old St. Louis holding about 22,500 people. It's because we show out and we show that we are the best fans in soccer.
Yeah, and it's the furthest east host city in the tournament too. So they're kind of doing a weird like west of the Mississippi type vibe for this. But I'm excited. I think St. Louis is getting some respect. I mean, people can argue all they want about soccer capital or if it's the soccer capital or a soccer capital, blah, blah, blah. People live here that know and respect the game, and we have deeply rooted history here that no one can just make up for a lot of different cities. So give it what it is. It's a special thing that we have going here, and City is an extension of that. So very, very excited about that news. We will be going to the match November 18th, November 18th, right? Who would have thought fall soccer in St. Louis? City couldn't give it to us, so the U.S. decided they would.
Yeah, and you know what's even better? Kansas City couldn't give it to their fans, and they still don't get it for that game either, and they don't get it for the Gold Cup either, so eat it. Going into just quickly on some City news as well before we get into kind of the preview at all versus Kansas City. But if you saw Tom Timmerman's post, Jake, it was kind of a surprising one to me. He tweeted out, he said, City's past 7 goals have been scored by players who were acquired in the summer transfer window. Hartel has 2, Toyherd has 3, Betcher and Kessler. Since League Cup ended, Leuven on a PK and Thorson are the only players who were here pre-transfer window to score.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't surprise me. I think if anything, it shows you what that office went out and did with Lutz and Co. Going out, getting established talent. No more messing around with prospects or up-and-comers or guys that have a lot to prove. These guys still do have a lot to prove, but they've already proven a lot as well. And you can't say that about a lot of the acquisitions we've made in the past. So it signals what they were about doing in this window. And it also signals the quality that we've been, so fortunate to see. I mean, Toykert, I mean, the guy is just everything he touches turns to goals. And Hartel, I mean, just the guy puts it on a silver platter for all of his teammates and has a couple to name for himself as well. And not to mention bachelor work and his tail off getting on the score sheet. Same with Kessler. So it's a sign of a temporary job well done, in my opinion, to Lutz and team to make sure that this is good, guys. Not that you can make all this profile the way that you acquire guys in the future, but when you want to go out and get talent, look what they're doing for you already.
And we need it, Jake, and we'll talk about injuries just real quick as well. So we need some reinforcements. Leuven should be good to go for Saturday. Had a little bit of a hamstring issue there, but then Durkin's knee inflammation is still ongoing, so that's a weird one for us, obviously. Kessler's full participation in training, which is great to see. Toyhurt with the knee brace, not 100%, but just being a little bit more cautious. And then Hartel not training toe, but expected to be good. So obviously it's still midweek. We're talking midday Wednesday right now. We still have Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So 3 more full days for these guys to get healthy, and knock on wood, no additional knocks in practice in the meantime, but kind of what we're dealing with right now.
And we'll get to it in our Hoffman Brothers predicted starting 11, but I have some fun I want to talk about here with this one now. But last thing before we get into the matchup here, Justin is City 2. We waxed poetic about these guys on the last show. I hope it's not the commentator's curse, but they did lose to Town FC in their not penultimate, but their final set of 3 matches. So they have 2 more left, I believe, against the Galaxy. Is one of them, but they're heading to the end of the season. They will not be the Supporter Shield winners. North Texas is already 6 points ahead on them. So I guess if they drop both those matches and City won both and they won the tiebreaker, we could get it technically. But either way, not what you're aiming for. You're aiming for championships and progress and development of your player personnel. We can check a couple of those boxes off already, but I think some silver will be nice to show for those in the City red. So I'm excited, Justin. I think just something, again, to keep an eye on as we head into the final stretch for them. Again, final 2 games, and we're going to have playoff soccer here in St. Louis. It's just not at the top tier.
Yeah, I'm really excited for those guys, and I would like to see them kind of round out the season, because what a season it's been. And guess what? We're going to have City fans that aren't going to be having City games to be going to, so you might as well get to City 2 and support the boys if you're not already. It's an awesome atmosphere on Sundays usually there, and I'm excited to watch them kind of finish this out because – Jake, we already talked about it. We talked about it for probably the past couple weeks now. The playoffs is now officially out of our hands. If Minnesota wins or draws versus Colorado, we're out, regardless if we win. But if we lose or draw, we're also out. So got to be a win versus Kansas City and hoping against Minnesota, who's playing Colorado, who's actually an impressive team right now as well. But I hate when any of my sports teams are not able to kind of decide their own destiny with these games, and that's the case that we're in this late in the season.
Yeah, it is. It's the unfortunate case, and I think even though it's not mathematically yet, but it's just about to be. I do think it's the time where you can, if you're Hackworth especially, probably knowing that you're not going to remove an interim tag anytime soon here, and you probably will either go back to your role or go back to looking at other offers or options in the offseason. I do think it's a time to try some things out. And it's tough because you're in like the last really meaningful game to the fans of the season. I still do think we're going to probably have to try some new things given some of the injury stuff we just mentioned. But I think for every game after this, which obviously there's not many, but I do think you'll probably see a little bit more freshness to the lineup and some of the rotation, and see some younger guys that are fighting and clawing their way for hopefully extensions to their contracts in the offseason. One thing I didn't mention, Justin, really quick before I get into the sporting of it all, is remember the pick your opponent format that MLS Next Pro did last year? How funny that was, and what did it bite Benny Feilhaber and Austin just in the ass last season? They're doing it again. Where 8 teams qualify for the playoffs from each conference, so 16 total, and then seeds 1 to 4 in each conference host and select their opponent. So I am going to be looking forward to that drama. It was so good last season to see it just totally backfire on someone. I love it.
They're taking it seriously, but they're also kind of playing with some new rules here and there to see, like, I doubt that would ever be a thing with MLS, but might as well experiment with some of these things in soccer at the lower level to see if it could fly. So I appreciate it, and I love it as well. Jake, we're almost about 10 minutes in. We're going to get straight into the Kansas City of it all right now, and I'm going to give you a quick lowdown on what have we done so far with them this season. First, we had a 3-3 draw away. Parker giveaway, Polito goal. Then we had the absolute bulldoze by Durkin, one-time pass into Alm with about and then into Klaus back post. We tied up. Then a Klaus bulldoze again in the 45th plus 2. So then we're up 2-1. Berkey own goal in the 64th, tries to reach it, floats over his head, and then a ball over the top there. Tommy making him run in behind. We don't mark him. They go up, but then Totland saves us in the 90th +2 for a 3-3 draw away. Then the 1-1 draw away as well, which I was at this season. Watts had that great ball that we talked about. We were kind of crapping on him earlier on in the season. He played well that game, got it up forward. And then Thor, basically Bambi on ice. If you remember, he could not stand. He was like wearing soccer cleats on ice, finished the ball back post. If he didn't finish that, Leuven would have lost it. He was so wide open. Go back and look at it if anybody hasn't seen it. And then the 73rd, just miscommunication with marking as it has been multiple times this year. And Willie Agata literally just heads it in right on the goal line, and we tie 1-1.
Brutal stuff. I mean, in that last match too, there's a lot of missing faces for us as well. I mean, none of these current faces obviously were involved in that match, so I'm excited to get a full strength.
That was their first game, but it was like 39 minutes, kind of like on a restriction. The boys were still like half in Germany at that point, like still trying to adapt to the time of sleep and all of that. So barely give it away.
You're right. If I think back to it now, Justin, I'm pretty sure maybe Teukert started in that match, but he might have been the only one of the new faces. I'm actually at the lineup up right now. Yeah, he did. He and Leuven sat beneath Thoresen in the striker. I mean, God, how far we've come. I mean, look at this. We had Reed, Parker, and Hebert as a back three with Klein, Watts, Blum, and Totland on like kind of the midfield four, and then Leuven and Teukert, and then Thoresen. I am just happy that day is over and that we survived with a 1-1 draw. Not that they were much better, obviously. I know they had a couple guys missing as well, but this is going to be the first I feel like real matchup with them, this year, where we've got all our guys, they've got most of their guys. I don't think they're nursing any serious like long-term injuries, and if they are, I don't care, and I don't care to research that, but I won't feel bad for them either, because they are 8-16-7 win-loss draw this season on 31 points, same as us, but 12th in the West because of their -9 goal differential versus our -14. But they're eliminated because they have a game in hand. So they've played an additional game than us. So a lot of fun stuff when you look at the stats between these two.
Yeah, and I would say on this, if you're really battling for something, the winner of this game is very likely to be able to be finishing above the other team. And I would love to be able to finish above Kansas City. If we're looking for small wins at this point, I would love to finish above Kansas City in our first 2 years. Because think about it, this is stealing 3 points from them, and then we still get to play an additional game as well. If we go up 3 points with a game in hand, I'm feeling very confident that we can close them out and beat them on the season. Their home record, 6-6-4, but their away record, which is the most important, obviously, because we're back at City Park on Saturday night, 2-10-3. Second most road losses behind San Jose as a team. And obviously, with only 2 wins, they're bottom 5 or so in MLS with that. So their goals for of 49 is pretty mid, but they're 58 goals against is 5th worst in the MLS. However, we're 6th. Just kind of keeping some of those things a little bit lower down, though, Jake. That we don't always care about that.
No, I agree. And the 2 wins they have away too, like nothing flashy. They beat Toronto when Toronto, I'm pretty sure, was playing a different sport back in March before they actually kind of came together as a team. And then San Jose, obviously in July, we just did that exact same score, 2-1. We were like, oh, we got the away win, but it wasn't pretty. And like it's like we know what that is to go win in San Jose. But their last 2 games, they did beat Colorado 4-1 in a kind of a fluke of a match there, and they lost 0-2 to Minnesota, which officially eliminated them from playoff contention. So these guys are coming in without any sort of aspirations for the season, but to probably finish ahead of us. So they probably have the same goal at this point, and they're helmed by a lot of the same guys, Justin, that we saw and that have made us pay, in this season and seasons past, just being last, with Willie Agata, who's obviously a big, thick striker. He's not tall, but just really, big and strong on the ball. 9 goals, 3 assists this season with them, and just 17 full 90s. He's subbed in 11 times, but he's provided the 5th most XG in the MLS. So we know he can be a problem, but we also know how we can nullify that problem. And God, he was sent to the moon during that last match, or the first match.
Yeah, but I also don't forget now in this Minnesota game, he got a PK that he tried to essentially tie the game versus Minnesota, put it off the crossbar. Minnesota went down and scored 4 minutes later, takes him out of playoff contention. Got to be in his own head, and he's about to have Roman Berkey in his head as well. Other guy, we've talked about these guys before, Eric Tommy, 29-year-old German DP, 7 goals, 4 assists, starting 25 his last 28 games. He is a guy that I think has kind of fallen off a little bit when you look at a goal contribution perspective, but still a guy that they look to run through, along with Alan Polito. Similar situation right now, 33-year-old Mexican DP, 7 goals, 5 assists, just on 16 shots on target. Only 2 other players in MLS have more goals and less shots on target than Alan Polito. So it is something that you do not want to give this guy space. He's a free kick specialist as well. That's probably where a lot of that comes in. And we need to be able to close down and block shots.
Yeah, a lot of danger you're going to mention in their attack. They've converted Jake Davis, who used to be a right back for them, into a central defensive midfielder. He's a young American, been effective for them. Johnny Russell, obviously on the wrong side of 30 at this point by a good couple of years, but still very productive. And on his day, that dude is a dog on the wing. And they still have Tim Melia, who's given up 50 goals against this season, third most, same as Berkey, unfortunately, but has 20 less saves. So it's not like they're conceding a ton of opportunities and shots, but they are conceding a lot of goals. So we get off of their personnel, Justin, and we start to talk about ours. Let's get into the Hoffman Brothers predicted starting 11, and let's talk a little bit about our boys at Hoffman Brothers, our boys and girls at Hoffman Brothers. This is the team, and they are hard to beat, man. I mean, rolling into this match, if we had Hoffman Brothers against Sporting Kansas, you know who's winning that. 99 times out of 100. Actually, make it 100. It's Hoffman Brothers. Anything under the roof, these people can do it for you. Anything heating, cooling, ductwork, appliances, anything that you need to make your life better here at home, this is the team to do it for you. So make sure you give Hoffman Brothers a call at 314-664-3011 or visit them online at hoffmanbros.com. And it's time, Justin. You know what, Justin? You're the button clicker this week. We're going to let you ride into it. So I'll let you take the ball. Go.
Everything. I'm going to bring us into the Hoffman Brothers predicted starting 11. I was ready for it. I was ready. I didn't know when you were going to lob me up a little alley-oop again, so I was ready for it this time. Jake, the one thing that I don't know if you're ready for is a starting 11 with the injuries and where we're looking at. Obviously, we're not officially eliminated from the playoffs, and this game means a lot to these guys. Regardless, anybody, if you've played sports, you know that rivalries always means something. Regardless if you're both, they're out for sure, and we're essentially out. This does not just mean throw some City 2s, Sporting Kansas City 2 guys out there, see what they got. This means the world to these guys. So what are you going with from a backline perspective? Berkey starting in net, obviously.
Yeah, I'm actually going to roll with I would say same 11 from last game, and I would just throw in Kessler over Yarrow. So I've been really trying to put Reed into the 11, and I think honestly the left back situation was obviously a huge concern of ours like 2 months ago. And right now, like even heading into the offseason, is one of my least concerns. I do think we'll rotate Horn and Reed a lot, and they both deserve it. They both have very different profiles, but both have acquitted themselves exceptionally well. So I'm going Horn in this one, though, to nullify some of that right wing attacking threat. Hebert on the left center back. Kessler gets back into the right center back, obviously assuming all goes well with all of his concussion protocol. I think he's out of it by now. And then Toland comes back on the right. Obviously had a fantastic match in the last game. I'm looking for a lot more of that here.
Yeah, I would agree with you on the back line. And then going in front, that's where it gets a little interesting because I think we're going to have Leuven, who should be good to go with his hamstring. But then obviously we have no clue what's going on with Durkin and the knee. So on this one, I agree with you here, Jake. I'm going JGR, Jake Gerwood Reich. I think that he could go there, and I would love to see him there. The only thing, my slight hesitation, Jake, is like, is this the game where we're going to try that out in? And what I could see Hackworth going with is putting Watts there, to be honest.
I could see it too. And when I was writing this we always, go between Justin saying or verbalizing what we think Hack will do versus what I think I would do / should do. And I would play JGR, but I could absolutely see Watts sitting next to Leuven. In that capacity, though, I'd worry a little bit. I just would feel like our back four is pretty exposed. So that's why I'm going with more JGR, but Leuven JGR or Leuven Watts is going to be the way they go. But I think at this point, we haven't seen too much of either of them in that position, in a stretch so far this season. But I'd like for JGR to get thrown into this one. He's a big boy. It's going to be a physical game. I love to see him get in there and mix it up. But up top is where I think we could see some change here. So with the Toykert of it all, knowing that he's got a little bit of a knee potential problem, at this point in the season, I don't want any risk. If you have any pain, get on the bench. Don't suit up. It's not worth it, especially if you're one of those players. So with that known, and things could change between now and then, I'm going to assume that we're not going to risk him. So what I'm going to do actually here is I'm going to bring Thor on the left. I'm going to shift Hartel into the middle. I'm going to keep Alm on the right, and I'm going to start Klaus up top. And I think that would be my preferred 4, given a Toykert, being cautious with him.
Yeah, I'm okay with that. I would like to get your thoughts on what's going on with the Betcher stuff. Like what we just used him when he was hot, and then we just sat him as well. It was kind of feels like a Sam situation. And does he just still not have a spot in the starting lineup? Or
my problem, the reason why I think I've kind of shifted away from trying to fit them into the same system is that, God forbid, something happens in the game or one of them goes down, or if the game's not in the right moment for us to, we're down a goal. We need to change something. Who are you putting on to change something? You don't have another striker left or someone that can come on and bring new breath of fresh air to the team. So as much as I hate not including him because I think he deserves it, I do want to have alternatives, and we don't if you play both, in my opinion.
Okay, I'm fine with that. And I'll agree with you then. I'll go with that starting lineup as well.
Yeah. All right. So moving on to what to look for with Sporting Kansas as they come here to St. Louis for the first time this season. Remember, they came here twice last season, and they are only going to be on short rest. Tonight, it's Wednesday, time of recording. They are playing, believe it or not, as much of a sham of a season that they've had in MLS. They are playing the U.S. Open Cup final tonight on Wednesday. So make sure you tune in. I'm pretty sure it's like 9:30 Central Time, which sucks. They're playing this out in L.A. I think L.A. is going to empty the tank into Sporting Kansas. They need some silverware. They are known to kind of cough up, some of these potential championships at the end. And I think they need this really poorly, really, really badly. And they have not been great recently. So this would do a lot for LAFC. Obviously, it to me would sort of give Sporting Kansas like some sort of salvage for the season and how poor it's been, another piece of silverware. And they have a lot of US Open Cups to show for it. So do we here in St. Louis. So hopefully they're going to come on short rest regardless, and they're going to take this one super seriously. There'll be no rotation. And hopefully they come emotionally and physically just drained, and we are just ready to pounce on it. I want to beat a healthy one. Don't get me wrong. I don't want to say injuries, like guys can't play on Saturday, but this is something that we have to be salivating over. The long season, a long emotional night here, we should be pouncing on that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think this is one of those teams, even if they are on short rest, they're like we talked about, though, they're going to be hyped up. And so it's like, all right, how are they doing form-wise? And I'd say about even with us over the last 5, 2-2-1, but their away form, third worst of any team in the MLS. As we already talked about, 2 wins, 10 losses, 3 draws. That's where we have to beat them up. This is the team. And think about that. And their 2 wins, we talked about it. There's not a really good fan base in Toronto or in San Jose, especially with the way that they've been going. Coming into a packed City Park, when this is our first and only game against Sporting Kansas City this season, knowing that we're not going to have playoffs again with them like we did last year, we just need to be absolutely amped and give our guys the legs to run right by these guys. Let's score early, score often, and let's put them to bed.
Yep, put them away early. I love it. Attacking-wise, looking at this team, they're about 21st in the MLS when you look at their expected goals per 90 away from home. So about a 1.2 rate there. And just about 50% of the goals they actually do score in the game are scored in the final half hour. So this team's got a late kind of buzz in the system where they can kind of get it together towards the end of a match if they need to, which is always a great thing to have for an attack. If you look at open play, they're top 10 in shots and goals as well. One thing I really wanted to call out here, though, Justin, was counters. They are a top 10 team in terms of XG created on counters. We concede the most expected goals against on counters. Look for that to be a massive piece to their game, is looking to turn us over in their own third and run the other way as fast as humanly possible. We know that's a weak point of ours. We've talked about it on so many different shows. We have got to be alert on transitions and counters. They are going to look to print money on those.
Yeah, I would say, and then especially if they're not trying to counter, they're a little bit above average in possession and passes, obviously. So passing sequence and top 10 in passing sequence as well. Number 3 in 1-2 passes. So this is one of those teams that if they're not going to counter us and they're going to try to sit in, we got to make sure we're not ball watching, because that 1-2 is essentially, think of it this way for anybody that doesn't know that term, it's a give and go. So you're looking at this or bang or a boom, boom, like moving it very quickly and guys slipping in behind. That's the biggest thing, is ball watching and making sure, that is only the biggest thing, because it's coolest podcast you got, but you need to make sure that you're not letting guys run in behind, because Roman Berkey can only do so much. So when they're doing little 1-2 passes in front of us, make sure we're staying with our markers, especially in the wide as they're trying to slip them in.
And pivoting to defensively, they don't concede a whole lot of expected goals against away from home. They actually are pretty tightly kept there. So they're in the top 10 in terms of the least amount of expected goals given up away from home. Most of those goals, when they do get scored, actually above 50% of them are coming in that final 30 minutes as well. So the clock ticking down is an indicator for their attack and defense. On the attack side, we score more. On the defense side, we're leggy and we're going to concede more. So that's something to be aware of for us. Open play wise, they concede the second most expected goals against in open play and third most goals scored against in open play as well. So you can carve this team open if you have the quality to do it. Set pieces, they've allowed the second most goals on set pieces. So this is an opportunity. Everything I'm saying, I feel like feels like an opportunity to me as I'm looking through this. And I hope that the team realizes that, like, yes, this is your rival. It's going to be emotional. It's going to be a hard fought match, no matter how you slice or dice it. But this team can be gotten at. And this game, I do think it's going to be close anyway, Justin. But this game, I could see being a blowout on either end. I could see being a nail biter or a really close draw, like we've seen the other instances go. So as much as I feel like I know what to expect from them, I don't know what to expect from us sometimes. And that's the hardest thing to predict.
And I'm going to give one more positive spin on this team as well. When you're looking at goalkeeping, Tim Melia, we mentioned 50 goals, which is third most that's given up in the MLS, which is actually tied with Roman Berkey. But he has the second worst save percentage as well. And he also has 20 less saves than Roman Berkey. So that's something that we need to look at. And I do think that this team has been doing great on is the number of shots that we've been able to rip. We need to be able to continue to hit those and try to finish these guys off.
Ooh, okay. I'm getting a little preview here, Justin, of our predictions and Grahammers. I'm excited to chat about these as we get into this. So prediction time. I'm going to do something that I don't think I've predicted in a while, rightfully so. And I'm going to predict 2-0 on this game. I am predicting a clean sheet against our rivals, which have we done that against them? I don't believe any of our games have been a clean sheet.
I doubt it.
We haven't gotten a clean sheet. I think we've been clean sheeted if you include the playoffs as well. But yeah, that's my prediction is 2-0. And we'll get into our Grahammers after you give your prediction.
So my prediction, Jake, I'm going with a 3-2 win. I think this is a game that it's asking for a ton of goals in this game. And I will say that's kind of what I'm predicting. I'm probably going to go with a bet on. I was trying to kind of base my bet on this as well, based on where you're landing. Because right now, for anybody that's been following us, I've literally been trying to do the math right now, which I should have looked earlier. I am 0.28 units down in the negative, and Jake is 2.43 positive. So if he loses his bet, he'll go down to 1.43. So I need something that's at least a 1.65 or so. I was kind of playing around with it, Jake. I mean, I really like the city money line and the game total over 2.5. But that's only plus 145, if I believe. So I may have to go with the game total and the over 3.5 at plus 270. But that just feels like it's too juicy because that's so much extra. Even if you hit yours, you're still going to be above that. So I'm going to do a little placeholder for this, Jake. And you know what I'm actually going to do? I'll lock it in right now for the fans. I'm likely going to be going with city money line and a specific goal scorer. So stay tuned to see who that goal scorer is. Let's try to get out on top.
Looking to make up some ground. And we got Chris coming in here in the comments. Chris, thank you. Our St. Louis soccer encyclopedia. First match last year against Sporting Kansas was a 4-0 dub for City at home. I cannot forget that. So we have clean sheeted them. Let's take that energy and do it right here. And how we do it in the Grahammers, Justin, you already kind of talked about yours. Did you give the lines generally for both teams right now? Because I was actually a little surprised, Justin. Were you surprised to see City at minus 120?
Not really, just because I think that when the books are looking at this, they're looking at probably short rest for Kansas City. They're already eliminated. They're looking at our home form and their away form. I think both of those, our home form has not been as strong as it should have this year. But looking at St. Louis and the way that we are, we're strong when it comes at home. And them only having 2 wins, very unlikely for them to come out with a win. I was kind of a little surprised. I mean, I guess the draw being that high is kind of surprising to me. So City money minus 120, Kansas City plus 240, and the draw plus 295.
Yeah.
I think it's fair, Jake. I think this is one that we deserve to take home. We've had 2 ties this year. We played them even both times at their place. Come home and win it.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I do now thinking about that. The draw, it does seem high considering we just drew the last 2 meetings. But looking at my Grahammer, Justin, I'm going to go back to Old Faithful here. And I'm going to throw in a little sprinkle as well. But my Grahammer for the week is going to be the highest scoring half to the second half. Both these teams like to score in the second half. I already mentioned that in our kind of analysis of when they like to score goals being in that final 30 minutes. I know we like to do a lot of the same. So I'm thinking the second half will be fireworks. That's at minus 110 if you can get it on your books. Highest scoring half being the second. My sprinkle is for City to keep a first half clean sheet. We are actually pretty good at keeping teams off the board in the first half at home, and they are actually really, really bad at getting off to a good start in the first half away from home. And that's at minus 135. So it's a little bit juiced, but there still could be some value there, and it's another thing for me to root for. So I might sprinkle on that as well.
Yeah, Jake, I've locked mine in. When I did a little bit of research, didn't take me very long. City money line and a Klaus goal at plus 200. So if that hits and your bet loses, I will surpass you in the season total.
All right.
We're going
coming down
in.
to the wire here. Coming down to the wire. Justin, any listener questions or topics you got? I got a couple from folks on Instagram with Tom Ben saying we need to play our best 11. We need to finish ahead of Kansas. I think that's a revised goal for us. Totally agree. Jay Hensley one said, what would you like to see the team try in the last 4 games formation-wise? I'm open. I'm actually less concerned about formation and more concerned about who is playing. So I want to see some younger guys get more extensive kind of cameos in this season. I want to see guys like Glover maybe come in, see what you're up to. Obviously, I want to see Reed get a lot more minutes. I think I'm open to any and everything after this match. Otherwise, everyone's just saying here, win, baby, just win. And I think that's so important. Get the W here. It's going to mean so much to the fans.
Absolutely. And if you guys are going to the game or you're not going to the game, meet us at the pitch. We'll be there before. This is going to be the last game that I can go to. Unfortunately, I got a wedding when we have the home game against Houston. So this is my last game at City Park. Pray to the gods that we have no rain, because I would be so upset if this one gets rained out or if it gets pushed back regardless. But you know where a good time to be is, rain or shine, is the pitch. No water's getting inside of there. Be there before the game, during the game if you don't have tickets, after the game as well. It's going to be a great time. Beautiful night in St. Louis if the rain can stay away. So get to the pitch.
Yeah, I agree, Justin, and just generally encourage everyone just to relish it. We only get this game right now 3 times a year, which feels like a lot, but there's months between these, and there has not been a winner this year in this. So this is a rubber match for all intensive purposes. Neither team needs it from a stats perspective, but both teams absolutely want it, and they're going to play like it. So we cannot take this team lightly. And I think it'd be such a nice thing to put in our pocket this season. It's just that little Sporting Kansas and that little logo. Just you stay right down there, and we'll see you next season. It sounds so good, as bad as this season has been, to win that series against them and on home turf. I think it almost puts a little bit of a reset. And to me, in a way, Justin, if we can win this game, I almost kind of feel like 2025 begins now. Like we start off on that and we go forward.
Absolutely. And I'm kind of upset, Jake. I'm just going to share it because I obviously should have shared it earlier. But the fact that I made a little bubble thing again, and I wanted to show it, but it doesn't really matter because it's really just, it's out of our hands. But so if you want to see it, obviously Minnesota, they are playing Colorado. If they win or tie, we are officially eliminated. But it's looking good. They're trying, the soccer guys are trying our best. Our opponents that are in front of us are playing number 3, number 5, and number 2 currently. So unfortunately, it's out of our hands, but I just wanted to share my cute little graphic. Oh, yeah, and I put Kansas City down here in that cute little bubble.
That bubble has since popped. Schedule guys doing the job, but we couldn't do our own job, unfortunately. But we're going to enjoy this run out into the season in this game even more so. So if you all, like Justin said, if you're all around the game prior to the match, make sure you head to the pitch, say hi to us. We always love meeting you guys. And we're just going to look forward to this one. It's going to be electric. 203 is going to freaking bring it. On this one, you can bet your sweet bottom. I'm looking forward to it, man. It'll be fun, and we'll do the recap as well on Sunday. And that's about all we have for you guys. And then we're into the final stretch here. So it's been a long season, but this one for me is going to be so worth it. It's what we've all been waiting for. I'm so pumped.
Yeah, and we're not stopping anytime soon. And now that we're going to start to get a little bit less of an intensive on the soccer front, we're going to start working on our second annual Hope for the Holidays. So be on the lookout for that as we kind of drop our save the date and once we get everything lined up. But Jake and I are already working on it, trying to get ahead and make it bigger and better again this year.
And it will be. It absolutely will be. So a little plug there. More to come. Thank you all for listening. If you're listening to the show on the podcast, make sure you rate or review us. 5 stars, please. And on YouTube, make sure you leave us a like and subscribe to us so you know whenever we're going live and you can get those videos delivered straight to you. Thanks all for listening and being fans of the show. We appreciate you and enjoy the match on Saturday. It's going to be a great one. All for City.
All for City.